Good morning, everyone. Y'all, we're at episode 35. 35 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Thank you so much for being here today. Y'all, today we're going to talk about an interesting topic, and it's called Healing the Petty in Me. Healing the petty in me. Because I don't know about y'all, but pettiness can be a thing. Good afternoon. It's 61 degrees. You know I was about to ask you. So you're like, let's get to the chase, Stacey. I know you at this point. I know you're about to ask me about the temperature. Yeah, it's chilly here. We've had some nights in the 20s already, in the 20s. So yeah, this is where we're at, y'all. This is where we're at. But today on Sipping Tea with Stacey T, obviously we're going to talk about pettiness because, again, that's the topic for today. You have your thermal gear on. You're ready, huh? You're ready. Yeah, no, I get it. It's time to crank out. As you guys can see, I'm wearing a sweater today, so it's definitely time to crank up that type of stuff. Though I will tell you in transparency, I actually like it being cool because I sweat all the time. So this is my time of year. Though I don't like thinking about the next part where it's snow and shoveling and you have on thermal gear and your kid is in shorts. Yeah, that's hilarious. But everybody's body temperature is different. I run hot, so it is what it is. Today, y'all, we're doing something a little different. We're still gonna have tea because it is Sipping Tea with Stacey T. But today, we're gonna try some honey. Tiffany, I know you're happy. You're shouting inside, right? You're like, yay! Stacey's using real sweetener as opposed to that artificial stuff. So yes, this is for you. So we're using this brand. It's Oliveras honey. It's honey company. They've been in business since 63. So yeah, I'm excited. Y'all, this is really heavy, FYI. Like I really thank the Lord. This is a really heavy package. It's a 3-pack that it comes with. My mommy blessed me with it, y'all. She's also trying to get me to, do some of this type of stuff. So there are 3 different types. There's this one, which is the one I'm going to be trying today, which is the original flavor, but it's creamed honey. So that's that one. That's the one I'll be trying today. But also in here, I'm also doing an unboxing, y'all. I'm doing an unboxing. So we also have pure raw honey, but this is what California wildflower. So that one sounds interesting. And then last but not least, in the unboxing is sweet Montana sweet clover. Oops, sorry, that way. So you love the packaging? Yeah, I do too. I think it's really cute. Really, really cute stuff. Everything is sealed, y'all. Because I literally have not tried it. I want you to know that this is literally me trying it for the first time. Just like the teas, I'm trying it for the first time. But today I was like, you know what? Let's try the creamed one. So that's what we're gonna do. So let me just get this out of the way. How's your week been? How's everybody's week been? We're still sending it. I appreciate that, girl. When it happens. And I will do the same thing. I'll do an unboxing and I will taste it right on here. I will not taste it before I have it on here. So I'm trying to think if there's anything I need to see on here. It tells me, I love it, the ingredients, honey. That's good, right? Y'all know I can't read with my glasses up close, so let me take them off. It says the serving size is 1 teaspoon, and then it gives you all the the caloric stuff that I'm not going to read. It does say it's a certified true source. So, and then if you're interested in reaching out to them, they have an email address at Olivares Honeybees, and then ohbees.com. So I'm going to be trying this out. So I'm undoing the seal. Dun, da, da, da. Man, this is really on there. They want you to know that, my goodness, y'all, I'm not trying to break a nail. All right, here we go. So you guys know I'm going to do a sniff test first before I do anything else. Wow. It is so like it is so like the smell is so like overpoweringly like it's gonna sound stupid, but honey sweet. You know how like sugar has a wow. And I'm not gonna spill it on here so you guys can see it, but it is like the color that you're seeing is literally it's like an off-white. I'm salivating trying to try it, y'all. Which means I'm excited. So I have my tea bag already in there. Let me put my hot water in. I literally thought about Tiffany today. I'm like, she's gonna be so happy that I'm using honey. Oh goodness, y'all know I can see all this stuff floating by, but y'all know I can't read that, right? Because I have my glasses on. So give me a second to put my glasses on to see if y'all are talking junk about me. You look like Grandpa Joe reading the ingredients. Hey, it is what it is, y'all. Nothing is getting wasted. Welcome to the real sweet community. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this is yeah, I caught you. Talking junk. Y'all, it's thick. Thick. I don't know what I expected. For some reason I thought it was gonna be it's thick. All right, so I'm gonna try it. This is the spoon I'm using just so you guys can kind of get an idea of the consistency. That is thick. Like it's still connected. All right. It didn't say I was supposed to stir anything around or anything, so I think we're just gonna go from the top. On the left. All right, so it says, did it say tablespoon or teaspoon? Okay. Yeah, I just wanna, I'm like, how much am I supposed to be putting in there? So it said tablespoon. Leanna likes your purple spoon. Thank you, Leanna. Do you like my purple? This is purple too. All right. Y'all, I can't even get it separated. That's a good thing. Look at the pull. Wow. All right. A little goes a long way. And it said a tablespoon. That's why I was like, that looks like a lot on there. I'm going to put a little bit back. All right. Good Lord. All right. Here we go. I'm putting it in there because I don't think if I just try to set it in there, it's going to come off. I think I just have to stir it around until the heat kind of takes it off. All right. So we're going to let that sit in there for a second. But I'm really excited to try it, y'all. So this is what it looks like. You probably can't even see it because it's, oh, there you go. That's literally what it looks like on the inside. So, yeah. So again, Olivares. But I'm going to give y'all a real thought about what. Thank you. I'm going to actually, I have another spoon here because I just want to try the honey outside of the tea because obviously the tea is going to give it a specific taste. So I want to just taste what the actual honey itself tastes like. I only have a little bit. Do you see, Tiffany, before you come for me? I'll have a little bit on here. Y'all. That is amazing. And I'm not even like amazing. Holy cow. Wow. Like literally, I've had honey before. I feel like I just had an experience. I don't know about the other ones. But this thing right here, cream honey, is where it's at. But again, I haven't had other ones, but this one right here, a mother knows best. I'll make sure she knows. Wow, that is really good. All right, so I'm excited. I'm hoping this hurries up. It's still melting off of the spoon, but wow, that was really good. All right, so why did I decide to have a conversation about healing the petty? Because y'all, I can get petty. That's basically why. I mean, everything about the healing journey has been about me being honest about me navigating things from my whole life, And I think that if I'm honest, which my intention is to be, what in the name of tea? I'll have to try that one later. Yes. What is the name of the tea? Oh, that's just regular Lipton. Like I didn't do anything. I didn't want to mix anything. I want to have like a basic, really basic tea. Yeah, I think it's Lipton, right? Yeah, Lipton decaf. So, and at some point I'll try it with like, I really want to try this honey with the peach tea that I had the last time, because I feel like that would be like mind blowing. So I might actually have a cup of that after this. But the reason why I want to talk about, pettiness in the healing journey is because, as I kind of keep unpacking more and more on my healing journey, because as you guys know, and you've been with me since February when I started this thing, it's something that I've recognized that I need to address. Because when you are continuing to like pull layers and layers off of your healing journey, you recognize more and more areas where you're falling short, areas where you need to pay attention, and areas where, or kind of your responses to things that trigger you, right? So something happens, and then based on that, you respond in a specific way. Everybody's going to be different. How you respond is going to be different. However, it's important for you to make sure that you are acknowledging that your default might be reacting in a specific way. And I'm very well aware that my response to certain things, if I'm pushed in a certain area, is that I'm going to be petty. Like, that's just what it is. So I'm working on me, y'all. I'm a work in progress. I don't pretend to have it all together. I'm not a psychologist or a counselor, and I do not play one on TV or on YouTube or TikTok or anywhere else where I may be. I'm just a woman trying to navigate my healing journey the best way that I can, asking for God's help and the grace of people that care about me. So that's where I'm at. So I'm going to ask y'all a question. And for anybody who wants to answer it, you can. If you're watching it now or you're going to watch it in the replay, you can feel free to read the response. Petty Pendergrass. Well, I'm more of a petty LaBelle. More of a petty LaBelle. Because let me tell you, sometimes petty LaBelle wants to be center stage. Hello, everybody. But you got to keep her behind the curtain. Pat, no, it's not. Nope, you can't go out, Patty. You can't go out, Petty. Like, stay back here. So I want you to think about this, and if you feel comfortable, you can write it. If not, I just want you to think about it. If you're going to be honest, like I am, when is the last time you were petty and proud of it? So as you're thinking about that or writing, I'm going to try this because I can't wait anymore. So good. So good. It is really good. Yep. Yep, really good. I'm excited about that, but I do want to try it now. I really want to try it with the other tea, with the peach tea. I think it's going to be amazing. All right, so some of you are thinking, okay, when is the last time I was petty and proud of it? Maybe the last time I was petty, but I wasn't proud of it. So I think that that's also an honest response and an honest answer. I will tell you that there have been many times that that's been my default. And we'll talk a little bit about why that happens, why pettiness shows up in your healing journey and just in life in general, why it shows up. Let's see, when I stuck up for myself and called a family member a bully to their face. I don't know if that's petty, though. I don't know if that's petty. I think it's more like, saying things or doing things. And we'll talk about what the definition is. Maybe that's what I should have started with. But I wanted people to be thinking about that because I think everybody has a different way that they view pettiness. And I think even as I did research for this particular topic, which again, I did use this week on TikTok, what I recognize is that I don't think I really fully understood where it comes from, right? So let's talk about petty and why we get petty and what really makes it a hindrance in our healing journey. So, definition: a petty person. So, petty LaBelle. A petty person is one who exhibits small mind. Sorry, y'all know. Again, I'm trying to read with my glasses on. I don't know why I tried to do that to myself. So, a petty person is one who exhibits small mindlessness or mindfulness, depending on how you look at it, focusing. So really hyper focused people, right? So they focus excessively on trivial matters, showing unnecessary unkindness or vindictiveness, often characterized by their inability to see the bigger picture, their tendency to complain, um, and their preference to petty revenge or arguments over small issues. Now, I think that the challenge with that term for me was I don't think that for me, and again, I'm sure for people that view me, that is their experience is going to be different, right? Because they're not in my body. They don't know what prompted me to go there. They don't know what has how would I say this? They don't know what has made me feel like I need to go into that space. And oftentimes, one of the things that I've recognized is everybody has what I call big little things that matter to them, right? So even though the person thinks that it's minor, even though the person on the other end of it thinks it's trivial, that doesn't mean that it's trivial or minor to you. When a consistent behavior happens or something that triggers you and you try to address it with the person and they trivialize how you feel about it, sometimes I've noticed that's when I can get petty, right? Because yeah, I get it doesn't matter to you. Yeah, I get it that you don't think that it's a big deal, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't impact me. It doesn't mean that I don't feel that way about it. So I think that that's often where the difference comes in. That's where it feels very different, right? Um so who in here has felt like they've ever had a petty era? um so Tiffany, to your point, the definition and kind of what you were talking about doesn't really fall into petty. It falls into something that's a little different, which I'll speak about later. You know, calling somebody a and yeah, maybe calling them that term bully might have been petty because you didn't really need to do that. But if it's the truth, then it's also not being petty. If it's the truth, then that's really not a petty situation. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, understanding pettiness. Let's get into understanding it a little bit more. So, pettiness often comes from a wounded place. Um, and I think that that's also important to kind of pay attention to. One of the reasons why I started my healing journey, and specifically, I remember when I was thinking about going on TikTok and I was thinking about, like, okay, I'm really going to start addressing my healing journey. I'm really going to get into this with people that I don't even know, some people that come on there that I do know. But I remember going on there and feeling like the reason why didn't differ from here, but the reason why I felt like I understood it a little bit more. And I feel like for those of you who saw the what I had as a heading or a picture before I started this today, and it said healing on purpose. I'm sorry, here on purpose, because I feel like that's the truth of it. I'm here on purpose, like intentionally on purpose, like doing God's work. And I think that that was really important for me to share, because what I'm going through and how I'm managing my healing journey isn't just something that exists in my own world. Everybody that's attached to me feels it, sees it, um, lives in it, like has to walk alongside it in part of the journey of it. And that can be tricky and that can be challenging. But it also impacts them in that they are seeing my healing journey, and parts of the healing journey are not they don't feel healthy, right? They can feel super petty. Parts of the healing journey are very painful. And if people that are in your life don't support your healing journey, they don't get it, they don't want to, they don't care, they don't give you grace, they show up, and it's also one of the things about the healing journey is you're starting to recognize that you're changing and other people may not be. They may not see areas where they can look at themselves. And that for you is important to recognize, because if you're in a space of change, if you're in a space where you're really trying to work on yourself, and the people around you that you may work with, that you may know in your part of your family, your friends, if they're in a different space, sometimes that can cause like a rubbing, right? And I said on TikTok when I went on there, my goal is not just healing for like the sake of myself, which is important, right? It is important for to heal for me, but it's also important that I don't navigate the world injuring other people. Like I'm not trying to walk through the world like I'm a Brillo pad, right? Just scratching surfaces all over the place and leaving people feeling bruised because I didn't do my work and I'm not willing to address things that bother them. That's to me not being a whole adult, right? So I knew that I needed to do that because other than that, I'm like playing human bumper cars, right? And that ain't it, y'all. That's like not where it is at. And so for me, when I started looking at pettiness and recognizing where it comes from, a lot of that started to make sense for me. But it also meant that I have to say to myself, well, Stacey, yeah, some people may do things that trigger your pettiness or your desire to do that or to show up in that way. But what does that mean about your growth? What does that mean about where you are? Are you still stuck? Are you even aware of it? For me, a lot of your healing journey really revolves around your awareness of yourself. And so that's important. So as I was saying, we're going to talk about a couple of ways that you can understand pettiness. So pettiness often comes from a wounded place, wanting to feel seen, heard, or in control. How many of us have ever walked through life and felt that nobody saw us, like saw us for who we really were? Now they see us because we're Black, right? Or they see me because I'm Black. Because if you're watching this and you're not Black, I still see you. But yeah, they see me, I'm Black. They see me show up in a space, and I tried to take space where I am. But again, that doesn't mean they actually see you. They don't see your heart. They don't care, right? Some people don't care. They see what they're going through. They see what you're doing to them, how they react to you. They're not caring about you as a whole individual. And that's a very real thing. That's a very real thing. And the as people say, the gag of it all is that they don't have to. They don't have to care about you. They don't have to show up in caring and loving and kindness. Is that hard? Yes. Is it painful, especially when it's people that you've known for a long time? Yes. But it's also the reality. And if you're in a healing journey, you have to acknowledge that. You have to also accept that, because if not, you're going to be stuck and you're not going to be able to push forward. And y'all, that ain't any fun. That's not any fun. The next thing that you need to take into account when you're thinking about understanding pettiness is the inner child in you is saying. So what the inner child in you is saying. What do I mean by that? When I think about Stacey as a kid, there were definitely times that I was feeling in my head, and I won't say I was thinking it. And the reason why I will say I wasn't thinking specific things, I didn't have emotional intelligence then, right? I didn't know how to articulate what I was feeling. I didn't know how to say it. So y'all might be hearing some stuff in the background. There's people doing, upkeep. So just letting you know that may be a thing that you're hearing. But what I will say is the inner child in you might be saying, you know what, you hurt me. You hurt me. Or because you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you back. Right? And I think that's when you get to that space, that's a real acknowledgement of, what you're going through and how you're enduring and how you're managing, is that, you know what, in this space, something about you has hurt me. But because when I was a kid, I didn't know how to say this, what happened is I stored away all those things. You'll hear sometimes people say, I never forget anything. I never forget how anybody did this, or this to me. And it's a real thing. And I acknowledge that that's the case. However, how does that impact your adult life? How does that show up for you in your adult life? I think is really important. Again, y'all know I got to put on my glasses because I can't see what you're saying. I guess the answer is to ask the receiver. Not so much. And the reason why the answer can't be to ask the receiver is because the receiver potentially doesn't care about how it impacts you, right? They may. But the reason why I say it can't fully be about the receiver is because if you're asking the receiver and they are also petty, or if they have not done any work to heal, then potentially what you're going to do is trigger yourself further, because you're like, I just put myself in a vulnerable place because I'm having a conversation with this person and they don't care, right? Or they are not measuring their behavior, or their behavior hasn't changed because I've shared this with them. So that can be a very real thing. It's not to say you can't have the conversation. I think it's about kind of measuring your expectations about what's going to happen based on the conversation. Because I have 100% had, tough conversations with people and walked away realizing that one, they didn't care, right? Or two, that they might say something that further makes me feel badly about myself. And let me tell you, on your healing journey, there's so many things you already are feeling bad about yourself because you're recounting things that happened to you, recounting ways that you showed up, ways you did not show up for yourself, that you let other people walk all over you. You're recognizing places of pain points that are like glaring in your face. And it's already hard. So that's why I say sometimes yes, can you have those tough conversations if you're up to it? 100%. But you also have to recognize that the receiver, the person who's receiving the pettiness from you, might have been the person that sparked it in the first place. So you have to really look at why that interaction did that for you. It's really about digging further than the interaction. Yes, the interaction matters. Yes, you should have a conversation about it if you're up to it, but it's about really doing your work. I can't hear anything, just you and the child and a child playing over here. Okay, good. That is me. I never forgot from when I was younger. I have a lot of things build up. Yeah, that's normal. It's normal to have a lot of stuff built up, and that's why I'm doing this work, y'all. It didn't happen by no reason, and I get that. Sometimes digging into the past, it unearths a lot of things for you, but when you want to have conversation with people, it unearths things in them, and everybody has a different way that they view the same scenario, right? Everybody sees the past as very much in their own perspective, right? Very much in their own perspective. And you're not going to change that for a person. And you shouldn't want to change that for a person. But it is important to a specific point where you feel like you've been heard or seen. Because oftentimes, as I read, that's why people feel the need to get petty, because somebody has invalidated how you feel about something. Somebody has made you not feel seen in not showing up for you in that way, where somebody has measured their control over you. And that can happen in the workplace. It can obviously happen in friendships. There's that one friend that feels like they run the show all the time, and you're like a little minion in their camp. There's that. And then there's obviously family dynamics as well, and how it shows up there, or relationship dynamics. All right. So that's one way. And then a third way that you need to think about, or that you can understand pettiness, is really saying, you know what? And again, y'all, I'm taking off my glasses. But another way is that it's not about being evil. So I think oftentimes people are like, oh, those petty people, they're just evil. They're evil. No, they're hurt, right? They're hurt. They felt invalidated. They felt dehumanized and or demoralized, whatever it is. And I think that people don't pay attention enough, or recognize, and I was going to say care enough, but I can't get into their head. So I don't know if they care or not. But I will say oftentimes people don't recognize enough that why people are showing up as themselves is because they come from a hurt place. So it's not about being evil. It's about unmet emotional needs showing up in spicier ways. So if I have an unmet emotional need, if you, for example, grew up in a family where, people always spoke over you or invalidated your feelings, and then now you have a relationship that brings that same feeling out, of course, you're going to show up in a spicy way, in sometimes a verbally aggressive way, and sometimes a sarcastic way, because that may be how your petty comes out. So there's lots of different ways that it shows up. But I think it's more important, as we're going through healing journey, not to so much even worry about that it showed up, but look at what made it happen in that moment. If you can rewind it in your brain, what is happening in the moment that brings you back to a place where you feel like you need to defend yourself, a place that made you feel like you didn't have control over your environment or yourself. That's really important. And so that's something that I think that we need to hone in on. All right. All right. We're good. So how do we get to the healing portion? Because anything that I talk about, I really want to make sure that we think about, yes, we're acknowledging that these things happen. Yes, we're acknowledging that maybe Petty LaBelle or Petty Pendergrass came to visit. Oh, that's good. But the thing about healing is interesting because healing does not happen in a straight line. Healing also sometimes is, well, not sometimes. Healing is a process of starts and stops, a process of hills and valleys, a process of failures and successes. And if you think you're going to get through your healing journey entirely unscathed, entirely in a point where, it's always upward, right? I felt like that, honestly, and I was quickly taught that that is not going to be the case. And I don't know why I even thought it would be, but I guess I was hopeful that it might be the case. But y'all, not the case. So healing means I'm learning to respond, not react. What does that mean? Oftentimes oftentimes pettiness comes out like this, like blah, right? And the reason why it does is because we're reacting. And it's not necessarily because we're reacting because we're not entitled to react. I think that needs to be clear. Because there are some times that something will happen. There's sometimes something that will take place, and as it's taking place, it's happening because somebody really did something to hurt us. Like, I think that, not I think, I know that that needs to be acknowledged. Oftentimes people are just like, they recount the person being petty. They recount, oh, you should have, like, oh, that's who you are, that's how you showed up. Yes, I showed up like that because this is the way I'm protecting myself. And that's what people, I think, miss in that conversation, because all they get is the feeling of the pettiness, right? They get that. They get the sarcasm. They get the, whatever it is, however it shows up, they're getting that. And they don't care to really dig into the why it's happening. They just care that it happened to them. Meanwhile, on the person who is, showing up as petty, there's all this stuff that's happening in the background saying, this person hurt me, and I need to protect myself. I need to defend myself, especially if you're a person that has not typically done that. So what this is saying is healing means learning to respond, not react. So you can respond. There's not a need for you not to say something when somebody says something to you that is, offensive or hurtful or whatever. That's not what that means. And oftentimes the reason why we show up as petty is because we haven't responded so many times. And then there's a point where, as I've said many times, the dam breaks. And now you're going to respond. And how you respond, or you're going to react. And how you react is not always the best way. It shows up as petty as opposed to a conversation. But this is something that I have to keep reiterating. You may choose to have a conversation and the other person may not. What does that mean for you? Does that mean you continue to try to have the conversation? Maybe, depending on the person. Does it mean you say, well, forget it? And like, if they don't want to have a conversation, it is what it is. But the issue then becomes, how do you heal that petty? Because there's going to continue to be interactions potentially with that person. There's going to continue to be things that you rub them the wrong way, they rub you the wrong way. But again, if you're on your healing journey, you can't be concerned that they may not be. It has to be something that you figure out a path forward for yourself to be healed, whole, and healthy. So that's really important. What else do we need to think about as far as, how we get to the healing portion? How do we shift into healing? How do we get from petty to healthy, if you will? Realizing that peace is power, not my payback. Now, y'all, I'm not going to sit here and say that sometimes just even thinking about, just like sometimes marinating on payback, right? So I think about, myself, my young, what was it, like 13, 14-year-old self. And I've told you about the story where, my best friend at the time didn't show up for me or whatever, decided that we weren't going to be best friends through what she did. And y'all, I want to be petty. I want to be petty. 100% I can remember, like, well, okay, you don't want to be my friend. I'm gonna show you that I'm a good friend. People want to be my friend. I don't think she cared, y'all. And that's the thing is, I mean, maybe she did. I've never had a conversation with her about it after, like, because at that point she literally went wholeheartedly into this other friendship and basically left me in the dust. So I don't know if there was a point where she looked back and was like, man, I really valued my relationship with Stacy. So that's not something that I can pull from. But what I will say is I remember full and wholeheartedly wanting to get back. And yes, I know now that the Lord says vengeance is mine, but I was going to help him out because, sometimes God be busy. He really does. He's busy. He has to watch the whole world, all the little children of the world and the adults. And I just want to help him out. And he was like, "Nah, I'm all set. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your assistance, Stacy, but it is not required." So that is something that you have to, think about. Peace is power. Now, peace is a tricky word. And the reason why I say it's a tricky word is oftentimes what people have equated peace with is not saying anything. Y'all, that I don't know what peace that is. I have no idea how that equates with peace, because even if you're not speaking something, it is living inside of you. It is eating at you. It's gnawing at you. The fact that you felt disrespected, devalued, all the things, right? The fact that somebody spoke to you crazy, all those things, it sits there. It doesn't just like go into thin air. I don't know why people think that that's a thing. It sits with you. It can be a huge hindrance because you feel like, man, I'm never like, these people are just talking to me crazy and I'm supposed to just suck it up. No, you're supposed to have, again, as an adult, you're supposed to have conversations. Not everybody's conversational. Not everybody wants to have conversation, especially when we start talking about difficult conversations. People will twist themselves into a pretzel, into knots to avoid a conversation. That is what healthy adults do, right? But instead, people just don't want to do it. No, it's not worth it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bother. And then guess what? You're not going to bother them, but it is bothering you because it's sitting there under the surface. And the next person that like just scratches that surface, and this person could be like literally doing the most minor thing, but because you've kept all those things at bay for so long, unfortunately, that person is about to get boxed and they have no idea what's coming for them. They have no idea the right hook that is on its way, because, and I'm not talking about really, y'all, keep your hands to yourself. But I'm saying they're not aware of the emotional right hook that is coming their way. How else do we need to process or think about a healing shift is by setting boundaries and also, you can still use wit. Let's see here. I see some chatter, some chit chat. Some people speak without saying a thing, and that's true. That is true. But if I don't know your body language, I don't know what the word you're saying. Right? If I don't know what your body language is, then that means nothing to me. Because that's your internal dialogue. If I can't understand it, then we're not actually having a conversation. You're talking to yourself. And to twist it around to make it seem like they're always right. Yeah, that's a very real thing too, Tiffany. That's narcissistic tendencies, actually. We must remember, just because you may be ready to have a conversation doesn't mean they are. So you have to find a time and a place that works for both, so it's more receptive. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is true. I think the challenge is that there's some people that will never have the conversation. And so there's a point in time that as you're healing and you're on your own healing journey, you have to recognize that one of two things both things can be true, but one of two things is true for you as the person that is going through the healing journey. One, you have to recognize that if they're not willing to heal, then the nature of your relationship may have to shift until they are ready to have a conversation. And that is because you are trying to be healthy, right? And you can't, it's like me saying, okay, I'm addicted to something, and I know that this other person is also addicted to something. I'm working on healing. I'm working on sobriety, but I'm going to still hang out with that person that's going to continue to bring me to that point that I might want to use again, right? That I might want to go there again. And that's not always the healthiest thing. So it really does make you have to be the person that says, okay, that's fair. You're not willing to do that. You're not willing to have the conversation. That's entirely your thing to do. But because that's your space and because I'm working on me, we can't coexist in the way we've been coexisting, because it's just not healthy for me. And that is a challenging conversation to have as well. But it's also a very real conversation. Yes, Tiffany, sometimes tell them to stop talking. Didn't hear a word. Just want to be right. And that's also true. That can be a very true thing. That is also very true, and also is an important thing. I'm just making sure I didn't read. I'm like, did I reread the same thing? Okay. Um, yeah, that I mean, telling people to well, hopefully you don't say stop talking because that's generally not going to be received really well. But if you need to tell them like, hey, how you're talking to me, I don't appreciate it. Or we need to stop talking right now because it's not going to go anywhere. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's really about having it's about having conversation as an adult that is receptive, yes, to both parties, but also healthy. Because I think that we've learned to have conversation on one side. Some people will bend, some people will not bend. Some people will break because they're so used to bending that they're just going to break. But that's never that in itself can be really challenging, right? Good conversation, good conversation. All right, what else am I missing? So how do you get from pettiness to empowerment? Because I think that is also a real thing. We were talking about one of the reasons why people get petty is because they feel a lack of control. People have asserted themselves in a power position. It can be a boss, it can be a parent dynamic, it could be even a sibling dynamic sometimes, it could be a friend that has always been, the leader of the friend group, what have you. And there are certain circumstances that coexisting with that person can be challenging, right? So I want us to be thinking about in our mind, how do we go from I want to be petty, I want to be petty, I want to be petty, I know it's not good, I know it's not good, and then how do I get to the empowerment part? How do I get to the point where I feel like I've regained my power, the power that always should have belonged with me, but that somebody else, because of their behaviors or how they show up, I feel like they've taken it. Or maybe sometimes I gave it to them. And I'm still now in the space that I'm older. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself. And now I'm going to be in a position where I'm setting boundaries because I want to reclaim power that I gave away. So, what does pettiness say in certain circumstances? It says, I'm going to get even, right? We already discussed that. Empowerment says, instead, I'll grow from this. Now, let me tell y'all. Yes, it's great to say I'll grow from this. I'm going to grow from this situation. I'm going to grow from how you treated me like hot trash. I'm going to grow from the fact that you minimize everything I say or make me the bad guy in every like whatever, right? Whatever it is that has been your trigger point, right? I'm going to tell you it takes a lot to go from I'm going to get even to I'll grow from this. It takes a lot of work. And yes, God is a God of miracles. And so for some people, he might exact a miracle to change your mind or your heart because it's a heart posture as well as a mindset. So he might do the work to change you and how you view things from from the I'll get even to I'll grow from this. In my life, I can say that it has taken a lot to get from one to the other. And I'm still on a journey in between the two. And then there are certain circumstances that will make me revert back to the other one and then have to be mad at myself because I'm like, Stacey, at the end of the day, that's maybe how people are going to continue to show up. What does that mean for you? Does that mean that you're going to continue to let other situations negate how you are progressing, or like you're going to use that as an excuse, as a crutch? Because again, let's just say, right, you are doing all the work. I'm not saying you are, but let's just say you're doing all the work. You're doing all the work to empower yourself, and another person that you're in relation with refuses to do any work because they don't see anything about how they communicate is wrong. They think that you should know how they are and this is how I am and all the things, right? If that person never changes, how is that going to impact your healing journey? That's really the mindset you have to adopt. If they never change, if they never see, any error in how they show up, if they never feel like, that they may have to acknowledge things or be accountable for things, if that never changes, what does that mean for your healing journey? That's really, I think, for me, an important distinction. Because I have been given I don't want to say a command, but I have been given something that God wants me to do. And this journey that he has me on is for me to have because he wants me to be a better version of myself. Along the way, that means there's going to be tests and trials. There's going to be things that continue to bring you back to a space where petty was your default. Protecting yourself was your default. And I will tell you, and I've said this before, every animal, every human has the inside innate desire to protect themselves in all capacities, whether it's verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We are designed to protect ourselves, right? That's why people say they have an animal instinct, or they have a really protective instinct. They say call mama's mama bear, right? Because they're in their internal clock, their internal dialogue says, I'm going to protect this thing, this being, whatever. But there's also inside, and that's a person for a person, like a protector for somebody else. But who protects you? Because it is your job to do that work. It is your job to have God help you to do that work. And I think that sometimes we minimize that. We minimize the why that we're showing up that like that, and also that we are supposed to protect ourselves, but protecting yourself doesn't have to show up in the same way you've been doing it. All right. The other thing that I want you to remember as you're thinking about, like, how do I go from pettiness to empowerment? Pettiness really says, I need validation from something, right? So you've made me feel some type of way, and I need validation. I need for somebody to say, you are enough, or I see you, or, I'm not trying to take over. I'm not trying to minimize you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad about yourself. Whatever it is that reaction or that relationship, that interaction has taken from you, because that's honestly, when I think about moments that I've been petty, I felt like something was taken from me in that moment, right? Dignity, respect about my ability to make choices, or, whatever it was. And I'm talking a lot, like, as I'm thinking about this in business, I remember, like, so many times where I felt like somebody was making me feel like I didn't deserve to be there. You know what I'm saying? And then instantly I would feel like this need to be petty. Like, oh, I could do this, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it the way that, they expect me to do it, or whatever. Right. But there's no, instead of having a conversation, because for me, I did try to have some conversations, and sometimes they would be going in circles and getting nowhere. And then that can build to my frustration level. Means nothing if they don't change. If you're on the healing journey, you heal. It may not be their time. God works on people in different time. 100%. That's basically what I was saying. that you still need to figure out how you can heal, because if your environment cannot change, if the people around you will not change, if your job, for example, cannot change, right? It's not, you're like, you're in the space to just be like, oh, I'm just going to get another one. You have to figure out, you have to master how God can help you as he's working on you. But the reason why I think it's important to have this conversation is because as he's working on you, you're still going to have people, or you're going to have situations that will make you dial into your petty. And I've told people I'm a playwright, right? So for me, the petty is not just like a one minor thought. I can think about the beginning act, the middle act, the end. I can see the colors. I can see, like, all the things, y'all, like the whole picture of it. But what again will that serve me in the end? So that's something I have to think about. So a couple of questions to ask yourself, and you do not have to answer, but I want you to think about this. How do you tell when you're petty or trying to protect your peace? So how do you tell the difference? Am I being petty in this moment, or am I trying to protect my peace, which you have a right to do? Right. So which one is it, and how can you tell? So I want you to think about that. Oftentimes it's pretty evident, right? Because protecting your peace doesn't mean you need to call somebody, and you're ugly anyways, right? That's petty. Like, how did that protect your peace in that moment? That might have made you feel good in that moment, but that didn't protect your peace. That was being petty. The next question I want you to think about is, what's something you used to react to, but now you just let go? What is something that you used to react to, but now you let go? Now, again, letting go is not the same as not speak. I think it was on the page before, I was saying not responding, because not responding oftentimes means I'm just going to continue to choke things down. And obviously, pick and choose your battle. There's not a hill every hill you're not going to die on, right? So pick and choose your battle, yes. But if you're a person specifically that has always felt that people quiet everything you have to say. They don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't want to hear from you. You've always felt like people speak over you or diminish your thoughts, right? Then that's typically when you're going to feel a ramp up of that. So you need to think about that. What is something that you used to react to that you let go? And I was telling people, man, if somebody was to come on when I was online and they would say they don't believe in God, when I say I used to go full ham on them people, I mean, I was having sessions so long that I was sweating. My family was laughing at me because I was going to convert them. I was going to tell them about the goodness of God, and they were going to leave this conversation believing. You ain't going to leave this I was going in, y'all. I was doing the most. They were condemned to all measures of hell, all the things. All the things. But yeah, I don't do that anymore, y'all. And it's not that I don't still love God. It's not that I still don't wish and want for every single person to know him. But the way that I was going about it was useless. It was 100% useless. So that is something that used to really trigger me when, and I had somebody on my TikTok the other day. I was like, yeah, so I don't really believe in God. And so, and every question was like, so this God, and he started putting them in quotation marks. And I was like, okay, so I can accept that you don't believe in God. That's your business, even though I pray that you get to know him. But you're not going to put my God in quotation marks. Like, that's what we're not going to do. And I could like literally feel myself defending myself, but not getting triggered to the point where I was going to like, go ham on this person that I don't know. And the benefit of me not doing that, even though in the moment I was like, okay, I'm going to have a troll on here that's just saying the most. What I was able to do was articulate what I had to say in a very clear way. And a lot of other people that were in that room in the chat were like, amen, that's exactly right. Oh, that's a really clear way to do that. Before I'd been like, let me tell you about yourself. Like that would have been more of how I addressed it. Empowered energy practices. So what are some of the things you should do to empower yourself? And I see I only have a few more minutes, so I want to make sure I get through these. Pause before reacting. So there's power in the pause. Yeah, I'm still working on that. Because when I feel that people don't hear me, and I'm not talking volume wise, because obviously I can speak at a volume that people hear me. But when people don't hear me, understand me, or I feel like people don't care that what I'm saying, I still have to work on that not triggering me, because that has been a thing because I felt like that as a kid. I don't want to hear that you're crying. I don't want, like, I don't, right? So as an adult, I didn't recognize until I started doing this healing journey, I didn't realize that brings me back to that mindset of like, isn't that, look, you have a roof over your head and clothes on your back, be grateful. And I am grateful, but I also want to be heard. I also want to feel like I can take up space. And it's interesting that as a trainer, a lot of what I did, especially when I was doing leadership training, is to talk about people taking up space. And meanwhile, I felt like so many areas that I didn't do it. I actually I went out to breakfast with somebody this week. And one of the things, and I haven't even talked about it yet, as far as, what she said to me, but I'm going to make a post about it eventually. But she said to me, Stacey, I want you to know you're a room tilter. And I was like, what? She said, you're a room tilter. When you walk in the room, you have presence. And I don't care if people don't want to admit it. They don't say it. I don't know if you've been told that before, but you're a room tilter. And first of all, I've never heard that before. That's never been something somebody has said to me before, but it really meant so much in that moment, because let me tell you, I feel like the room has fallen on my head lately. So being a room tilter, not something that I thought about, not something that I thought people would see me as, but it was such a blessing for somebody who is watching you and observing you to like look at all the things and like see all the things that you're managing and say, Stacey, you are in this moment. I want you to know you're a room tilter. And I just was like, wow. So when I say that there's validity in somebody seeing you, yes. Should you validate yourself? Yes. Encourage yourself? Yes. That doesn't mean that other people saying those things to you doesn't bless your heart. It doesn't mean that it doesn't allow for you to like, let me throw my shoulders back. She just said I'm a room tilter. Let me walk like that. Right? So it's important sometimes for people to recognize that, yes, there's a reason why you need to empower yourself. There's a reason why you need to walk in your power. Even when people don't appreciate it, even when people don't understand it, because what people don't necessarily know is you walking your power is saving your life, right? It's letting you exist in a space that constantly pushes down and says you shouldn't exist, that you don't matter, that you don't count. So sometimes you employing that power is the only way you can actually stand in the midst of chaos. So for her to say that was such an awesome thing. So sorry, I didn't know I was going to get emotional. But I want to say that it's important to say that. It's important to show up for people. It's also important to tell people when people matter to you, tell them that. Show up for them in that way, right? So just want to share that. So what else can we do to empower ourselves? Y'all, redirect the energy. If you're in a situation where you know potentially the people that are in your space won't change, are not in the space that they want to, you still need to redirect the energy. Because if you're not getting the energy out of yourself, it can corrupt you. It can eat you alive. So, and then it does revert in you doing things to protect yourself as opposed to protecting your peace. God protects you. You need to protect your peace, right? He's given you peace. Your job is to hold on to it with, even if it's with your fingernails. Hold on to it. So how do you redirect your energy? Get it out of your body, which means create something. If you're a person that likes to cook, create a new meal. Or if you're a person that likes to knit something. If you're a person that likes to write something, journal, exercise, go for walks. There's lots of things. Sing, do lots of things that bring you into a different space. They redirect your energy. So instead of having your energy focused on, being petty or, vengeance or getting back at somebody or whatever the things are, redirect it. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't have a conversation. If you need to have a conversation and you feel safe to do that, then do that. I always ask my circle, what do they see that I'm wrong or right? I always say, you can correct me if I'm wrong. That's how I can see the positive that I'm doing. Good. That's really good. That's really, really good. And that's what that tells me is you have a safe circle that you can do that with. Not everybody's fortunate enough to have that. And that's a blessing. That in itself is a blessing to have that. The next thing is affirm your strength. You can say to yourself, I don't need to be petty, Stacy. You don't need to be petty. Because I know what I'm worth. So I don't need to do that. I don't need to go there. I know what I'm worth. Even if somebody else devalues me, even if they don't see it, even if they think I'm talking a bunch of junk, whatever it is, right? I know my worth. Why? Because God tells me my worth. God determines my worth. Even when I mess up, he still sees my value, right? He saw it on Calvary. Even when I was already a full sinner, right? He still saw value in me. Now, is anybody else going to potentially be able to see that measure of value? No. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It does not mean that. My peace is my power. This is another affirmation you can share with yourself. My peace is my power. My peace is my power. Now, you have to determine what that means, right? Does it mean never saying anything when people talk to you crazy? No, that's not peaceful. I guarantee you there's a storm inside of you. If you continue to do that and put it in compartments when people continue to act and talk and treat you crazy, then that's not peaceful. It's maybe peaceful for them, right? But it's not for you. And we're talking about us, like our internal, healing journey. And then I choose growth. I choose growth. You can choose growth over pettiness. You can choose growth over whatever, gossip, whatever it is, whatever it may be. So the last thing I want to say is this. Sometimes healing does mean realize being unbothered is the ultimate clapback. And that's a really funny thing, because if you really want somebody, I don't know if you've ever been at work or in a position where somebody really wants, they're like trying to goad you. They're really crazy disrespectful or whatever. And if the moment allows, you just stare at them and smile. I guarantee you, when I say you're, and I don't know if this is like petty instruction, so maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but it does get under the skin in a whole new way. You haven't had to say anything. You haven't had to act a fool. You haven't had to do any of that stuff. But silence silence in a time when you're being attacked verbally, and I call it verbally aggressive because there are a lot of people that can be like that, or verbally assaultive. And even to, I think Cheryl mentioned it earlier, sometimes body language is the biggest, conversation. So sometimes they're ignoring of you, or they're all that can be, because it, right? I've been in a meeting where somebody literally took over what I was saying in the meeting, and was entirely like, then kind of looked over at me like, now what are you going to say? Type of a deal. And I had all the thoughts, y'all, all the thoughts. But yeah, that is a time where that can be the ultimate clapback, especially when somebody else speaks up for you. Let me tell you, when you don't have to defend yourself and somebody comes in and tells people who you are, whose you are, that's the ultimate thing, right? You hadn't had to do anything. You didn't have to get your hands dirty. There was no clapback on your end. The clapback happened because God allowed for it to happen. Empowerment is not silence. It is self-assuredness. It's self-mastery. So sometimes, when you get to a place where you've had the tough conversations already, the person still is not validating you. And this happened to me in college specifically. I remember a moment like that, that I was in a space where, I was fighting for myself because I was working. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Where I was defending myself. And in that moment, of me trying to defend myself, I was like, why am I doing all this? Because I had already known that I didn't cheat. I had already known that, I don't know what was going on in this teacher's mind, that they were trying to get me in trouble in school. And I did go to the right people, but at the end of the day, I didn't know what was going to happen. I had to give it to God and say, God, you need to figure this out, because I'm not getting kicked out of school because this teacher's acting all over the place. And he defended me. He put the right people in the situation, and they handled it. So I was validated without me having to do a thing. So sometimes silence is indeed the ultimate clapback. All right. With that, y'all, that is it for today. We, talked about healing the petty in me. Maybe I was the only one that has had petty moments, but I'm hoping that this left nuggets with you to understand a little bit of maybe how pettiness shows up, why it shows up. And then also recognizing that you may incur other people that also are petty, but this is about you and your healing journey. And while your healing journey impacts other people for the better, that doesn't mean they're invested in it. So you have to be invested. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate that. All right, y'all. So again, this honey, if you haven't purchased it, Olivares honey, especially this one, the creamed honey, I am a fan. I'm gonna try it in a cup of peach tea and see if I like it there. I'm sure I will, because I loved it in the regular tea. And I will see you guys next Saturday on the next episode of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Peace. Have a good one, everyone.